It's so good. This call with you is going to be such a joy just because you've had quite a story. And I know I have deeply loved getting to know you in your time in the program. And to get to this point where we're celebrating is so exciting. So I'm just thankful for you and your journey. But if you would first start before we jump into questions, just telling us a little bit about yourself, maybe introducing yourself. What was your story prior to this program, and what led you to kind of join Pain for Intimacy?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so I've been married for 12 years. I feel like my story is slightly different than a lot of women who come to the program where like they find out on their honeymoon that they're unable to have PIV. And we were able to have pain-free PIV for like, I don't know, it was probably around 2 or 3 years. But even though the pain wasn't there in the beginning, I actually can still kind of look back and I see still a lot of like, oh, like there was still a lot of the vaginismus dysfunction. It just wasn't manifesting as pain yet. And I think a lot of, mine for me was due to just my upbringing and some purity culture stuff and all of that. And so I definitely see where like my mindset and my beliefs and my fears and all of those things were always there. And then when I had my son, which was 3 years into marriage, his birth was a bit traumatic. And so I think that kind of was maybe like the thing that kind of tipped it over. Anyway, after that is when I kind of was starting to experience some discomfort, and it was kind of sporadic and that was confusing and I just didn't understand it, and then it kind of just was like a downhill since then. Where it was just getting worse and worse and more like it would be happening every time. And it was just a lot of years of, trying to troubleshoot, trying to figure out what's going on. Like most women, I felt like I had no one to talk to about it, or, the church doesn't really talk about it. So I felt like I couldn't bring it up. And it was so isolating and lonely and confusing. I really felt like a crazy person. I just was so confusing to just be like, I have no idea what's happening in my body. And I just didn't understand my own body, I don't think. So we tried a lot of things over the years. Shortly before joining the program, I was in pelvic floor PT for about a year. And then she basically was like, at one point, I can't help you anymore. She basically told me that I needed help like mentally. And I
Oh,
was like, wow, okay. Um, I don't know if I should be offended by that. She said it in a nice way though. But I'm actually like so glad that she didn't just like continue having me see her and waste my money. And her saying that really did give me a big clue of like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't just physical. Maybe this is deeper than that. And so anyway, we tried like other things over the years, and like a lot of women, I got really bad advice. Like there's some people who I would open up to, and they had such good intentions, but they didn't know like what it was. They didn't know what was happening either. So their advice wasn't really the best. I got a lot of like, just have more sex and then you'll like it more. That was probably the most common advice I got, which we did try that a few times. And that was terrible. I think that just probably made it worse. So there were a lot of things like that where we tried, and I think it just really perpetuated it. But yeah, finally we sought out like sex therapy through our church. We actually got up the courage to talk to our pastor and see if they would help us pay for it, and they agreed. And then, like shortly after that, our pastor passed away really suddenly, and so our whole church fell apart basically. And so that went out the door. And then at that point, I was kind of like, okay, it just felt like rock bottom. Like I've tried all these things, I don't know what's going on. Like, why does it feel like God's closing all these doors of me trying to seek out healing? And it's confusing because you know that the Lord created sex and marriage to be good and wonderful. And so it was like, I don't understand. This is a good thing. And so, yeah, that was really, really, really hard. And so I kind of was like, man, maybe this is just it. I kind of had resigned myself to like, this is my thorn in the flesh. I think that I just need to accept it. I have to just accept that I'm going to be in a sexless marriage and we just need to like move on with our lives, basically, because I can't keep trying things and then it failing. And so, luckily, the Lord did not let me stay there. And shortly after that, I found amazing Francie Winslow, and I saw the episode with you on it. And I kind of was like, a little cynical at that point. And I was like, ugh, I shouldn't even listen to this because I've listened to all the things on it. Like, this is going to be nothing new, blah, blah, blah. But I did. I listened. And by the end of it, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is it. Like, this is exactly what I needed. And your story was, I just felt like I resonated with a lot of your story. It felt like similar to mine in a lot of ways. The, whole body approach made so much sense to me. I'm kind of a crunchy hippie in a lot of ways. So I was like, I love this like holistic approach. This is amazing. And so I think it was probably like the next day I signed up for a consult with you. Um, and then that very same day we had the consult, we said yes to doing the program. And I don't know if I actually ever told you this, but as Daniel and I were figuring out, like if we're going to do the program or not, we're kind of like, well, like we don't exactly have the funds to pay for this right now. But we both felt like we should do it. And so we said yes. And then literally like a few hours after we paid for it, God provided like just the right amount of work for Daniel that day to pay for it.
Wow. Oh my
So
God.
anyway, yeah, that's leading up to the program.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I haven't heard that. That's so cool. I love when God works like that. Okay, so wow, Sam, that's a long journey. And I think like the point of getting to that pit of despair, I think is the word we keep saying in our group calls. Getting to that pit of despair where you're just like, this is my thorn. This is what it's like for me. I know a lot of us have been there. You just when you're in that journey with sex and intimacy and there's struggle, it's so isolating. And you really don't get to feel support in a lot of ways, which is sad. I do feel like the church definitely needs to do better at supporting women in this, in couples. You start asking questions and seeking answers, and a lot of times what we find doesn't really support what either we believe or what our body needs, and it just further digs in that pit of despair. And so I think a lot of women have been there. And I love the timing though of just like, well, then I found Francie Winslow, who is amazing. She has an incredible podcast that really has helped me in so many ways and just like accepting my body and loving it well. And yeah, I love that way that the Lord interjected right there and waited for you almost to get to that point of I surrender. There's nothing I can do. I've accepted where I am, Lord. And he said, okay, good. Now let's move forward. So cool. Okay. So yeah, started the program. And now what? How is that? I know the program has definitely had some ups and downs. There are sticky points, there are better seasons, but what were some of the more sticky things that you had to work through in the program?
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. There were so it was such a journey. Like, where do I begin? I think I had so much to work through, and my body took longer than I wanted or expected. I think that now though that I'm like on the other side, I'm like, nope, that's what I needed. I needed that long to kind of fully get to every layer. There were so many layers I had to work through. And so even though in the midst of it, it was so frustrating because it was like, this is taking so much longer than I thought or wanted. It was exactly what I needed. And that's kind of what I was saying on the call last night of just like, God does not waste a single moment, and your body and your mind are going to take exactly how long they need to take to heal, and not a single moment of it is a waste. And I think that is so amazing and cool, just the way He works. And I think that That's another thing that's beautiful about the program, and maybe a good reminder for other women listening is like you can make this your own in a lot of ways, and you can like be creative in how you do it, and that's the only way we were able to work through that partner stuff. The room had to be completely pitch black, and we kind of just like slowly, like very slowly, like really slowly integrating him. And then I was able to have the lights fully on, and it was totally fine. So
Wow. That's so cool how you were creative and you made it unique to you guys and you're able. I mean, but it takes a certain level of being able to have a conversation too. Because I think for a lot of women, it's like, I don't even know how to tell my husband that I don't want him in the room looking at me. I'm afraid that will hurt his feelings. And, then there's a lot of, I'm afraid of how he will react if I say this. And the fact that you guys were able to get that foundation of trust and vulnerability so that you could communicate, I have a deeper need of, I don't want you to look at me right now. And then for you two to problem solve and brainstorm together, a strategy that was unique to you guys is so cool. Like that is deep marriage work that, issues outside of vaginismus and intimacy, you're going to be able to come together as a team to support you guys better because you've done this really awkward, weird thing of doing the vaginismus work naked and fully exposed. That is going to help set you up for much, much, much more success in different areas of marriage. And so God does use every little thing, like you said, including these awkward, bumpy, sticky, I hate them moments. He's going to use that in really great ways to strengthen your marriage, strengthen you as a mom, strengthen you as a friend, because you now have that confidence that vaginismus allowed you to get. So, that's so awesome. Okay, so you're in the program a long time and you said that you went through it twice. How did you know to go back and do it again? Why did you go back and do it again?
yeah. So I think I was kind of like, well, I think we had a few conversations where it was evident that I still was like pretty strongly in fight or flight freeze mode on certain things. And they were always around Daniel being integrated. And so at that point, I don't actually like exactly remember. I think I had had a conversation with you, and I was like, I'm thinking about, starting over. I think this is maybe what my body needs. And you were totally supportive. And so it kind of was like an intuition thing because I just felt sure, I guess. Like I just felt like, no, this is exactly what I need. I need to start over. And so I'm grateful for that because I think if I hadn't felt that, it would have been like, oh, I don't know. Like, and so I think just going to the Holy Spirit and throughout this whole journey is so important. And it can really be a big spiritual warfare battle, like humongous. And that's another big thing that it was for me. I just felt berated constantly, like from the enemy mentally. And so, anyway, that's a side tangent, but um,
So, would you say that you had any like good mental breakthroughs in the program?
oh, yeah, there were so many layers. And it really was kind of like here and there trickling. Um, I think I was surprised at how much I had to work through. Going into it, I did not realize that. I was like, wow. I think I suppressed and buried so much. And, a decade of doing that obviously is going to create a lot of stuff you have to uncover. And a whole childhood really, of just kind of rewiring myself from all the untrue beliefs that I had. And that takes a long time. And so just, yeah, reminding myself that it takes time to do that.
Yeah, I think it is surprising the amount that's there. But we know vaginismus is an involuntary, like muscle reaction. And so that does suggest to us that there are things in that subconscious, unconscious world that are creating that involuntary reaction. And that when we dive into that and dive into that world in a sense and kind of unpack and unfold and look at that with curiosity rather than judgment, that's when we can start making the involuntary more voluntary and have a body that works with us instead of against us. And so it does require a lot of times opening up and seeing like, okay, what is in there? What's down there? Sometimes that's not that much, and sometimes we're surprised.
Yep.
But that's where the Lord shows up. And that's where the Holy Spirit's like, okay, now we will start transforming by the renewing of your mind, which that's where God comes in. And he's like, I'm doing this. Thank you for opening the door. I'm coming in and I'm going to plunder out some of these lies and some of these misbeliefs and the shame and the work the enemy's done so that we can completely overhaul the way we see ourselves, our marriage, and intimacy. And so you've done that, Sam. You've done so much beautiful, beautiful work. I know we were talking last night on the call how I got to meet you in person, which was so cool because you flew from Alaska down to San Diego for our San Diego meetup, and we got to spend some time together. And it was such a joy to get to meet you in real life. I mean, I love getting to do the online thing, but like getting to hug someone is so much better. But I will say, as much as I really loved that Sam that I got to spend time with then, the Sam that I know now and that, we've gotten to watch kind of unfold over all these months is so different. Like the confidence that you have, the assurance in yourself, the trust that you have in the Lord, and your comfort in not being in control have all been huge. That Sam back then, there's a lot more like what if kind of questions. And now the Sam is like, kind of bring it on kind of thing. And it's so cool. So I would say too, how has healing maybe impacted your marriage and maybe your sense of self? Because I've seen it, but what do you see from your side?
Yes, everything you said is so true. And that's kind of crazy that it's like, wow, that it wasn't that long ago, but so much can change, in a short amount of time. And like the work that God can do in you is just so cool. And I would say, like, if you had asked me before starting the program if my marriage was strong and good, like I would have said without hesitation, yes. And I think it was, but now that I'm like on the other side over here, I'm like, wow, I can see, I had so many walls up towards Daniel. I had so many guards up towards him. A lot of them are really involuntary, but there's a whole layer of true deep intimacy that's there that we were missing out on because I had all these walls up. And so now kind of being over here where I don't have any of those walls up anymore and I feel like I truly can say anything to him. Whereas before I was, always like not wanting to say things because I didn't want to hurt him or, whatever it was. So now being like, it's so freeing. And I see now what really that deep intimacy is when you have no walls up towards somebody. And
Mm.
that is so beautiful. And it's so special that I finally get to feel what that feels like.
Wow.
And it's so freeing. It's just like, wow, okay, I feel fully known by him now. And I feel like he understands me. Whereas before, I think maybe I didn't feel like that, partly because I wasn't telling him, or partly because it's just so confusing. I didn't even understand. It's really like, no, I feel so known by him, and I feel like I know him too. And that's just such a beautiful thing. And then as far as like myself, I think, like a lot of women in the program, people pleasing is really a hard thing for me. And so learning to put boundaries and say no to things, and it's not the end of the world. And I don't have to apologize for every little thing. And that's been a really big lesson for me. And I'm still figuring that out. But there's already been a few times where I said to Daniel, I was like, I'm going to say no to this thing. Whereas before I would have said yes, even though I didn't want to do it. Seeing things through that lens and figuring out how like I can still serve people and love people, and I can do it in a way that is honoring to myself too, and to them, and to my marriage. And so that has been a really big lesson for me, and I'm really grateful for it though.
I think it's beautiful when we learn that by putting boundaries and saying no and kind of drawing some lines, we are better able to love people. Like we're
Yes.
better able to give love. And I think the love that we give is better received. And yeah, it's less about like letting someone else down and making them feel bad and trying to control their response to stuff. And it's more about like, let's just do this in the way that works best. And that's for me to not overcommit or not for me to care about every emotional state of the other person. Like being able to support your body and yourself to have that confidence in your needs and what your body's asking, what your capacity is, um, really does help you love people better and just be a better mom, a better spouse, a better friend, a better church member. But it's so hard. It's so hard because it's just ingrained in us that we're like, we are women often who want to serve and do and give and love. And that's not that we don't do that. It's just we do that with the right lens and with the right boundaries in place to make sure we have the capacity to keep doing that. So
Yes.
super big truth. And then I do really love you just saying how you feel like you're fully known now, and I think I would have also probably said, like, well, our marriage was rocky with vaginismus, but I would have said it was probably strong because we were married like 8 years and had been through a lot. So, oh gosh, no. Like where we are after healing from vaginismus is so beautiful. And it is that deeply known,
Yep.
completely able to be naked and exposed
Yep.
physically, but also emotionally and spiritually in front of this man, and to know that I'm completely loved and accepted because we've tested and tried that. And that is what God designed in the Garden of Eden when it came to intimacy. Like that's what his initial, there was no shame. There was no like naked and afraid and ashamed and all this stuff. There was no hiding of ourselves. It was all just like joy and peace and connection and vulnerability. And then unfortunately, of course, the fall changed everything, brokenness entered in, but he still works to get us to a point where we can be naked and exposed in all capacities and be completely held by both God and our spouse. So that's so cool that you were able to see that and taste that goodness. And that is that journey towards Eden that we are striving for. Yes, we don't want there to be pain, but it's even more, it's even greater. And because God has these deeper things in store for us. And vaginismus can allow us to get there. So it's so cool, Sam, that that has been such a part of your story.
Yep.
Um, but in terms of intimacy, like how are things in the bedroom now?
Well, so I was actually thinking, like maybe I should not do this call for a while. Like maybe I should postpone it, for a few months until it's like perfect. Like I think I was waiting for it to be like perfect before I had this call. And then I think I just felt a little bit of conviction, or whatever you want to call it. Like, no, I think I should do this right now because I think it might be helpful for, other women listening who maybe might be in a similar boat, or their healing journey looks similar. And I think I went into it thinking probably a little naively, but like once I have pain-free PIV, it's just going to be like, okay, we're on the up trajectory, and then it's great after there. And I knew from like you and Olivia talking like, oh, like there's still, occasionally we'll have it be uncomfortable. So I knew that, but I think I was still expecting it to just be like 99% of the time is just perfect or great or whatever. As far as like pain specifically. And so it's just not panned out that way at all for my journey. And my body, I'm realizing, is just like it needs a lot of time. And it's wanting to go really slowly. And so the mind work, the somatic stuff, has really transformed me, to be able to kind of connect. Because before I was so angry, like so annoyed. I had pain free PIV like 5 months ago. Like, what's taking so long? And so that kind of helped me kind of click and be like, okay, it's my body just, this is what it needs. And it was kind of like, okay, I could take a breath. And it was like, all right. So, anyway, all that to say is that, like, I'm still sometimes experiencing, I wouldn't even say it's pain. It's more just like, it's uncomfortable sometimes. Um, but I feel like totally zen about it. Totally like, I just know that it's what my body needs right now. And it's just the healing, like the transition phase for me specifically, is just going to take really long. And so I'm fully prepared for it to be a long time, and I'm fully okay with it. And like we're still having so much fun, even though it's like not perfect. Um, and it's almost like we're completely starting over. Like we're now newlyweds again in a lot of ways. And that's just kind of like, it's fun because now we're newlyweds where we don't have any guards up. And so that just makes it like way better. And and so yeah, so anyway, all that to say it's slower, but I would say, majority of the time it is pain free. And on the times where it's not, I'm like taking it in stride and giving my body the time it needs to process and doing my somatic stuff. And it's still fun and I'm still loving it. So yeah, we're having a lot of fun.
I appreciate the transparency with that for sure, because we were actually talking about this on our call yesterday that so many of us think that when you transition to the penetrative sex, that it's going to be just like, okay, it's fine, it's great, it's wonderful. And I wish I could say that it was that easy, but I would caution anyone who would like sign up for something that would tell them that, because the body is so unique in what it needs. And everyone's body is so different. And we know, like, through the vaginismus journey, like, you size up on a dilator and it's bumpy and clunky at first. And it's like, okay, it went in really great day one, but 3 days later, it won't go in at all. And like 6 days later, it's now easy. And then 7 days later, it's like not even the tip will go in. And we get so mad, but then eventually we're like, this is just what happens when we go up a dilator size, and I'm here for it. And then eventually our body's like, okay, fine, this one's fine. And we move up another dilator size. So the same thing happens when we transition to our husbands. It's like that's our new technically dilator size. So it's a little clunky and bumpy. It's a little awkward, sometimes uncomfortable. Sometimes that pain resurfaces. But what matters truly is the response that we give to what our body does. And if we spiral into shame and frustration and just like despair, our body is going to completely close off and be like, this is not a safe activity. But if we can support in that transition and say, like, okay, you know what? It's going to be clunky. Remember how all those other dialects were clunky? At least this one's clunky and attached to a man that I really love. So I'm here for it. Then our body's like, okay, I do need to work through the bumps and the clunks and the awkwards and the uncomfortables and stuff. And eventually the turbulence mellows out and we become to build those new pathways that are there to stay. But that takes resilience, it takes compassion, and it takes grace, which, Sam, is something you have developed so much in these past few months. And I think was probably not really a stronger element that you had when you had that first pain-free sex attempt and then met your body with judgment when it needed the clunkiness. And you said, you can't be clunky. We have to do this. And your body said, well, then I'm not doing it at all. So you've done so much work to get to that point and to make this so beautiful and to make intimacy something that you cherish and love and are not running from and shutting down to is huge. So good. And so, yeah, how are you feeling like about kind of stepping forward now in intimacy? And I know Daniel's been awesome. He's been a huge, 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 like, just joy to my husband in the husband support realm. I know my husband is very sad that Daniel is graduating. But how are things in your marriage? How's Daniel feeling about this?
Oh yeah, Daniel is such a optimist. He's throughout the whole program, which sometimes I'm like, ah, stop being so optimistic. Um, but it's so good for me because I do tend to lean more pessimistic and I do tend to catastrophize things easily. And so, God knew exactly what kind of man I needed. And so it's just, he's perfect for me because he just always is reminding me of the beauty and the blessings. And so, man, he is just like, he's so excited. He's so excited. He has been the biggest support and blessing to me throughout our whole marriage, but also throughout this program. And he's so patient and just putting me first and giving me all the time that I need in the world. And even, now it's different. Like I already said again, it's like a new marriage in a way, like he's also different. He's also grown so much through this. And so we're not the same two people that we were before at the beginning of marriage and before this program. And so it's just so sweet. Just being able to be known together. And he's so pumped. He's just like, man, this is amazing. We don't have to like cry every night. Like the poor man, the amount of times that he's had to comfort me. But it's just, God knew exactly, what we needed to grow together. And it's also what Daniel needed too, and the ways that he's grown. And it's just so cool. And I feel like, he can now talk to other men. And I just feel like already it's kind of come up sometimes randomly where it's like now he can kind of have that wisdom to share. And that's just so cool. And yeah, we're gonna go to Hawaii, like I said on the call. And so we're really excited about that, to just go celebrate and just relax. Like it just feels like, when you're on this really high stress for so long. And so it just feels like we've been in that for so long, like a decade. And so coming off of that is just like, wow, I can take a breath. Like, I don't have to spend an hour doing dilators tonight. I don't have to, just like coming off of that really high stress is just, it's almost weird. Last night I was kind of like, I don't even, like, what do I do with myself? I have all this time. And so, yeah, anyway, it's just been really fun and sweet.
I'm so excited for you guys. And that stress switch is huge when you don't have to have vaginismus on your mind all the time. Oh man, that's great. It is so good. I'm so excited for you guys, especially Hawaii. That's going to be so sweet and beautiful.
Yeah.
So if you could maybe whisper something to yourself, like whisper any advice to yourself for when back when you like started the program, what would you say? What would you tell yourself?
Oh, I would probably tell myself that it's going to be a process. It's going to be a long process, but to remind myself that, the Lord, like I said, the Lord's not wasting a moment of it. And that brings me so much comfort. I think it's having people in your life. I know not everybody can, but even if that's through, the MAT teams, just having somebody in your life while you're going through the program to whisper truth to you, to combat all the lies and to combat what the enemy is speaking to you. Um, and so I think I would tell myself, like, really seek that out early on, like right away. Really seek out people who you can come to and who will continually speak truth over you. And I'm blessed that I did have some people like that throughout my journey. It was so life giving. And on my hardest days, that was kind of like my lifeline, were those precious people. So it would probably be that. And just to tell myself that my body needs time and that's okay. Like it's going to need probably a lot longer than I think it's going to need. And that's totally okay. And to give my body grace and to give my mind and body time to work through all the layers because that's what we want. Like remind myself, we want to work through the layers because there's so much beauty on the other side. And so it's so, so hard when you're like in those moments of despair. It feels almost nearly impossible sometimes to see through the fog, like to see the truth and to see that there will be an end. Because in those moments, you're just like, this is never going to end. Like, this is my life forever. And so, just having those truths to speak over yourself is, I think, so important.
That's so powerful. And I love the different ways that you had those truths kind of coming into your life, especially the community aspect and using like your MAT team, which our prayer and encouragement groups are amazing.
Mhm.
But leaning into your MAT team to be able to help them carry your mat closer to Jesus through sharing those truths that help keep us focused on heavenly things. And you being that for them too. Like there's so much power in you being able to be that voice. I can't tell you how many times I'll say something to someone out of like wisdom or something I know to be true, but I myself still am struggling to believe it. But by sharing this, it's helping me in my journey towards believing something and accepting it. And so it's powerful that both way kind of give and take with that. So awesome, awesome. And so much of this is combating lies in every
Mhm.
element. So it's huge to have all that support,
Mhm.
keeping those lies away and keeping focused on the truth. So, okay. So, a question I ask everyone is penetrative sex worth it?
This is funny. I was like, I bet Jess is going to ask me this because I've watched all the other calls, the celebration calls. But I was like thinking, okay, I think it was maybe like 2-ish months ago, maybe 3 months ago, I posted on the community hub. I don't even know if you saw it, but I think I said like, I'm not thankful for sex or something like that. And I just think that's so crazy. Like, that was only a few months ago. And I was like, no, I'm not thankful for it. Like just kind of like, again, the renewing of my mind in that space is so cool just to see. Like, wow, that was actually a short period of time, and so much has changed in that period of time. And so my answer is yes. And yes, I'm thankful for it now. And like, I totally understand if you've never experienced PIV, it really would be like, why is this so amazing? Like, what's the point, and it's hard to describe, but there's this feeling of like being filled up is a feeling that's like it's unlike any other feeling. And I don't even know if I have the correct words to describe it, but yeah, it really is just like you feel filled up, and in that feeling is like total comfort, I guess. um like there's really just nothing like it. It's like I can't even compare it to something else, because it's just its own unique thing, which is like, of course, God's beautiful design, and He made it to be unlike anything else. He made it to be the most connecting thing possible, and that's really what it is. It's like imagine being so close to somebody, and then like times that by 10. Like it's like the closest you can possibly be to somebody. And so, yeah, it's such a cool feeling.
I totally know what you're talking about. And I don't know how to put words to it either. So it's actually like, oh, please find the right words. And I think you actually did a really good job that filling up in the most like comfortable, compassionate way. That's good. Because I agree. Like, it's so hard when you've really just experienced painful, frustrating sex, and whether it's penetrative or whatever, at that point, it just becomes the intimacy in the bedroom is a space that is not safe and not comfortable and frustrating. And it's so hard to imagine that something as silly as getting a penis inside of you so much better.
Yep.
And it is because you do dilator work, and those are stupid and sucky and cold and hard, but necessary. But there really is something so beautifully intentional about that coming together. And yeah, there aren't a lot of words for that. But I do also think that there are many women who get married and have sex and don't have vaginismus who don't experience that fullness because they haven't tasted the depths of despair and frustration and absence of that. And so we, I think, can even more lean into and taste the goodness of that because we have really experienced the worst. So I think
So
it's cool that the Lord allows us to have bedrooms now that we really crave and love.
actually a great point that you brought up, because I have the unique thing where I had pain-free PIV in the beginning of marriage. And like exactly what you just said. Even though I was technically having PIV that was pain-free, it's so different than what it is now. Like so different. I actually feel like the deep connection and the being known and all of those amazing feelings. Whereas before, I really think I had too many guards up. I had too much blocking me to really feel that, and I didn't feel that connection to Daniel in that same way. So, anyway, yeah, that's really cool. I love that comparison.
Yeah. And it's almost like, personally, I would say my journey was worth it. It was worth 8 years for me to be able to feel what I feel in the depth of our intimacy in our marriage now. Than just if it would have been fine from the beginning and sex would just be like this, it's good kind of
Yeah.
thing. It is good
Yep.
kind of like, it's worth it. Those 8 years sucked, but dang it, I am thankful now because of how beautiful it is. And the transformation that's happened personally in my life to make me a more loving spouse and mom and friend and whatever. So God is so good. And He will not take a broken situation and let it go to waste. He will take that and transform it into a beautiful narrative that will showcase His goodness, and help us in our flourishing. So awesome. Well, Sam, is there anything else you want to share, or any wisdom or advice or anything you want to say?
Oh man, I don't think so. I feel like I said everything.
I really appreciate your vulnerability and just the perspective you have on this. So thank you for sharing all of this. Thank you for trusting pain-free intimacy with your recovery and with your journey. Thank you for not giving up on yourself and your marriage, because it's so easy to throw in the towel when things just keep being hard and frustrating. And you persevered and you kept that hope going. And so thank you for that. And for the incredible blessing that you have been to the other women in this program. Like one of the highlights, I think, of this program, what I love about it is just the sheer amazing women that it draws in. And like we have some of the most powerfully compassionate, encouraging women in the world, all coming together in the most awkwardly weird way of you being united by vaginismus. But the level of encouragement is so sweet. And so thank you for just being such a strong voice of encouragement to others. You're going to be deeply, deeply missed in our program.
Miss being on the calls, honestly. I was like, it's a little bittersweet. It's like, oh my gosh. And you're right. Like, these are the most strong women I have ever met in my whole life. Like, I have been just completely blown away by these women in this program. And just, I feel so honored that I get to hear their wisdom and hear their hearts. It's just been so sweet. And I'll be forever grateful to have been a part of it. And I'm just so grateful for you and Olivia and the program. And it's the best.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. Thank you for everything. And I'm so excited for your journey.